Okay, so after the interview slides 3 and 4, in these slides, we're going to talk about. So we talked about the waiting after the interview on the second slide. Then here's the other two topics we're going to talk about: getting the job offer and not getting the job. So those are the two things that we're going to talk about today. So let's watch this video.
Nicole here with Job Hunts, and in today's video we're going to look at the things you should consider when you receive a job offer. For most job seekers, receiving a job offer means the end of their job search, and for the most part that's pretty much true. However, once you have an offer in hand, there are still a few things that you need to consider before signing on the dotted line. The first thing to consider would be your total compensation package. And what I mean by that is more than just salary. So of course, salary is going to be a big component of that. But in addition, there are things like benefits, bonuses, and vacation time that really need to be considered. So as an example, with bonus, that should be really considered as gravy or above and beyond. Bonuses are never really guaranteed, so it's really important to keep that in mind. Next, in terms of benefits, this can include everything from medical benefits right through to retirement savings options or even stock options. As these benefits become more complex, of course, I would recommend speaking with a financial planner about that. But in terms of medical benefits, it's really important to consider that in terms of what your needs are or your family's need. If the benefits that you are offered won't cover the needs of your family or yourself, then potentially you could negotiate a higher salary to offset that balance. And finally, of course, vacation. That's really going to be up to yourself in terms of what you're comfortable with, but that could potentially be a negotiation piece. Alternately, there could be some creative solutions that you can come up with to offset any maybe imbalances in total compensation. So things like sign-on bonus or even work from home options. The second thing to consider would be your commute. So the commute to the location when you're going for your interviews, especially if it was during off-peak hours, could be vastly different than what your commute would look like during rush hour. If you have the opportunity, I would recommend doing a dry run to the location during rush hour. And if that's not an option, see if you know of any, maybe your neighbors or anybody that you know of who works in that sort of location, and ask them what it's like to travel to that particular area during rush hour. The third thing to consider is any travel that might be required with the role. So in some cases, travel could be, relatively heavy. So just really making sure that you are clear on that before you sign on the dotted line, as it were. But just keep in mind that you may not be able to get anything written in your employment contract about limiting the amount of travel that you have. The next thing to consider are the hours that you're meant to work. So again, it kind of goes along with the travel and commute time rather, especially if you have to work during those regular peak office hours. But also to consider things like overtime. Is the role overtime eligible? And if so, how many hours of overtime are generally worked? Again, this is one of those sort of balances that are important to consider, and to consider that in relation to your own lifestyle and your family's lifestyle. And finally, if you haven't had the opportunity to meet the team, before you sign the offer is a great time to ask if you can sit down and meet with the team. Always remember that that interviewing is actually a two-way street. You should be interviewing the employer as much as they're interviewing you. And meeting the team is a really great way for you to interview the employer. As a final thought, the assessment of a potential candidate actually goes through right into pretty much the probationary period that a person starts a job. So this would also include the way that you would handle the offer negotiation piece. I mentioned that as well in a previous video, which you can find right about there, on negotiating your job offer. So it's really important to remember that while you're negotiating your offer, I would recommend doing that, but make sure that you're being respectful and that your demands are reasonable, that you're not making unrealistic expectations on the employer. Otherwise, you could be running the risk of having the offer letter rescinded.
So as she was stating in here, in the video, Nicole was stating in the video, things to consider that before you accept a job offer, the salary, which is basically how much you get paid. So sometimes jobs are salaried, meaning you get so much money every week or in a time frame every single time, or hourly, and that's like you would get $10 an hour, $20 an hour, that type of thing. Other things to consider are your benefits: health insurance, stock options, retirement, bonuses, vacation time. I noticed when I had a job at Walmart, they offered some stock options to where they would pay a certain amount like you would pay, and then they would match that money to purchase stocks. So currently, from my job several years ago, I still have Walmart stocks, and they just keep growing. So that's also something to consider when you are trying to accept a job. Another way, some times you can negotiate things. This may not happen in a first job position, but more when you have more experience with working and you go down the road, maybe negotiations or creative ways to offset. So, for example, um, a sign on bonus or working from home, if you're thinking like, oh, well, this much money isn't isn't very much, but maybe if they let me work from home 2 days a week, that would be okay. Um, so that's something like you might think about uh, before off, accepting the job. Sorry. Okay, then you want to definitely make sure you make a dry run to the location during rush hour. So, like, you want to make sure that you see how long it takes you to commute from home to your job. It may not be worth it to take a job that takes an hour and a half to get to work every day, whether it's on the bus system or your parents taking you or you're driving yourself. Like sometimes you have to consider that. Is it worth it to drive a long time in the car or the bus to get to work? I mean, you might feel like that's okay to take an hour and a half to get to work every day. I might not so much believe that that would be a job I'd be really interested in. Um, Currently, in case you guys want to know, it takes me about 20 minutes to get to work every day. I think if I had to do any longer than 20 minutes, um, I mean, I'd probably go up to 30 minutes. I don't know if I just don't know. Um, you could always think about moving closer, but you just have to see, is that a risk you want to take to be that far out? Or it could take you 5 minutes to get to work. That would be great too, huh? So is there any travel required for the role? So like, for example, if for our mock interview um we were applying to Subway, getting an interview at Subway, are there going to be other locations that you have to go to? Like, here's the one at Nora. Do you have to travel to the one in Carmel or Westfield or the south side of Indianapolis? Are there other locations that you need to work at? Do you have to travel for that job? Are they going to ask you to bounce around? Because I know some places they do. They ask you, they don't have enough coverage over here, so they're going to ask you to work over here one day. Hours of work and overtime. So, what are you working full time, part time? Is overtime required? If so, then you want to know, you want to have a good idea of what it is that you are being expected to do. And then an option she said was ask if you could meet the team. That may not be an option, but certainly you could always ask. Um, so that is important who you work with. So I see why she wants you to maybe think about that. Um, Basically what the Nicole, this woman who has been giving us this advice, she just wants you to put yourself in that job and consider all the factors that could potentially affect you and your lifestyle and what you need from a job as well. So that's what's important. Now, the next thing we're going to talk about, not getting the job. I know that does not sound fun, and we want to stay positive. But you know what? I've had a lot of interviews where when they call me back, they told me we went with someone else. And guess what? That's okay. That's okay. That's just part of life. And we have to, remember that not everything is going to be sunshine and rainbows, and that we're going to have to deal with disappointments in life. So here's a different lady who tells us a little bit about bouncing back after a job of I'm sorry, bouncing back after not getting the job offer.
In this week's video, we're going to go over how to deal with job rejection. That's coming up. Hey guys, I'm Kim with Snag a Job, your #1 source for hourly jobs, and welcome to our weekly advice show. So this really happens to the best of us. You go in for your interview, you try really hard, and you just never hear back. Or you apply to the job and you wait and you just don't hear anything. You call to follow up, they say that they've already filled it, or maybe they even tell you you're overqualified. Dealing with job rejection can be really tough, but it's very important to keep your head up. So here are a few tips on how you can get back in the game. First, keep applying. This may sound pretty obvious, but never stop applying until you've actually gotten the job. So don't just apply to a job and just sit around waiting for them to call you back. Just like employers have multiple candidates that apply for the job, you want to have multiple jobs to apply to that you can choose from. Second, address the issues. We know that you don't want to constantly sit around and replay over and over in your head what happened, and we don't really recommend that. However, run through everything at least once to make sure you didn't miss anything. Review your resume and application and see if maybe you've made a spelling mistake or a grammar error that could have cost you the position. Employers tell us that this is the #1 thing that causes them not to call you back. And if you did go in for an interview, think about what you might have done wrong. Were you dressed appropriately? Did you have a good handshake? Did you research the company and ask the right questions? In a competitive job market, you want to do everything you can in order to stand out. Third, never take it too personally. Don't get too stressed if you didn't get the job. Everyone has been through it. I've been through it. Everyone I know has been through it. Probably the employer has even been through it. The job that is right for you is out there, so don't give up. Keep a positive attitude and remain optimistic. Fourth, make an action plan. Instead of getting too down on yourself, use this as an opportunity to motivate you to do better the next time around. For example, make sure your resume is spot on, or maybe try a different approach on how to follow up after the interview. Really use this as an opportunity to polish your skills and land that next job. So thanks for joining us today. If you liked this video, please let us know so we know to keep making videos.
Okay, so some tips that Kim gives us. She says to keep applying, reflect and review your resume, make how to make changes, how was your interview. So think about that. Look at your resume. Is there any grammar or spelling mistakes? Should you have worn more professional outfit to your interview? Should you have spoke up, used a clearer voice? What are some of those things that you should have done differently maybe in your interview? But obviously don't beat yourself up about it. Don't take it personally. Everybody goes through what we call not getting the job is called job rejection. You are rejected from the job. So don't take it personally. Everyone goes through it. Like I said, I've gone through it. Then you want to make an action plan. Take this opportunity to motivate you on how you can do better. Move forward, shake it off, as Taylor Swift says. Do volunteer work, add to your resume, keep up with your networking. And remember how we said how important networking is. So keep doing all of those things. So keep on trucking after that. So we're going to review some questions, and then obviously if you have any questions, give me an email, inbox me, that type of thing, and I can help you as best as I can. Fill in the missing word on the slide. Getting the blank offer. journey, jump, or job? So we did talk about this. Question 2, which of the following is not necessary to find out before you accept a job offer? So which one of these is not necessarily something that you must know right now when you accept the job? The benefits, the insurance, retirement, vacation time, the hours worked and schedule, the location and how long it will take you to travel to work, or what you will do on your vacation. Okay, now here's the other thing that we talked about. We talked about 2 things, about accepting a job and job rejection. So now this is the second half of our slides. Fill in the missing word. Blank, getting the job. Not, now, or new. Question 4, if you do not get the job offer, you should stay positive and keep applying for jobs, true or false, and answer that one and submit your quiz. And again, let me know if you have any other questions. And finally, we are ready to take our interview post-test. So I will see you over on that assignment. Take care.